we are going to talk about one of the most, I'd say, mind-blowing concepts, at least for me, when it comes to ads and growth. And it's the beauty of ugly ads. First, please drop your LinkedIn and Zoom chat as requested. That way I can add people and y'all can add each other. And also join our Slack channel if you want any questions around growth answered. Also a good place to network, but we have a Slack channel where you can ask questions about growth, meet other people who are in growth and digital marketing, and see what the latest news is in the industry. All right. We're going to start off looking at ugly ads by looking at sets of ads. So we're going to look at two different ads, two different pairs of ads, and they belong to this subscription snack box company. Some details about the company: they deliver brand name snacks every month. The snacks are a random assortment, and they're cheaper than buying at Costco. These are the things that they use to advertise, the messaging that they use to advertise on Facebook. So here's the first ad. This ad is a video. We'll see it has high production value. You get the gist. Oh, sure. There we go. Here is the second ad. As you can see, this is not as high production value. This isn't even a video. It's a blurry image of two kids opening up the snack box that's being advertised. I think that they tagged the company Variety Fun on Instagram, and then Variety Fun reached out to them and got permission to use a picture. And obviously this is like a very, very like amateur shot. So which perform better? Well, a little bit of a spoiler given the name of the lesson that we're talking about today, but let's look at it anyway. So this ad lost money, and it costs a decent chunk of change in order to produce, whereas this ad got $1.95 for every dollar spent. If we are to look at why this is the case, like if we were to look at the underlying metrics, what we'd see is that this ad had a click-through rate of 0.75%. So 0.75% of people who saw the ad ended up clicking. And this ad had a click-through rate of 2.31%. So maybe this is an anomaly. It could just be random variance. Here's another example. So this ad is same company, also have a snack box. You can see it's a little blurry. Like the person who took this should have probably cleaned their camera a little bit. But it demonstrates what comes in the box. And here's a second ad. Oopsie. Okay. Again, professionally shot. I don't know if this was photoshopped or, yeah, it looks like it was photoshopped on a pool, but professionally done nonetheless. It seems like there was time involved in taking this. So which ad performed better? The first ad got $2.21 for every dollar spent, whereas this ad lost money. If we look under the hood to see what's going on, it's a very, very similar story. This ad had 3.06% click-through rate, and this ad had a 0.90% click-through rate. So what is going on? I'll give you the superficial answer first. Let's take a look at the pretty ad. There's something called banner blindness that occurs. So people are so used to seeing ads on social media when they're scrolling through that they don't even notice a post if it looks like an ad. So anything that is professionally shot, anything that might look like a stock photo just doesn't get noticed. People scroll past. So they don't even read the copy. They don't notice the ad. They don't click. Now, the opposite might be true for ugly ads. Like you probably will notice an ugly ad on your feed, but the question is, can this actually work? If you are not used to advertising on on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms. This is like really, really counterintuitive. And like I said, it was very counterintuitive to me as well when I got my feet wet in ads. So there's no way these could work, right? So I'll explain what's going on. And to do that, we are going to use this guy. If anyone has been to Times Square before, you see a lot of people selling comedy show tickets. So they go around, they approach you aggressively, they ask if you want to watch a comedy show, and they kind of actually harass you until you buy a ticket. For most people, this would be a huge turnoff, but they've been around for decades. So clearly there's a revenue model here. Like clearly something is working. So if you're to think about this, what type of person would not be turned off or put off by this guy? Probably would be somebody, let me see if there's anything in chat. Okay, would probably be somebody who is actually looking for something to do. So a tourist who's visiting the US, they're in New York, they're looking for a comedy show. They might just think all Americans are kind of like this and, you know, kind of aggressive when it comes to approaching people. And so they're cool with buying. So whether or not an ad puts people off, even if it's aggressive, comes down to one thing. And that one thing is relevance. If something is relevant, so if you're showing an ad to people who might want to buy the product, they're a lot more open to whatever that ad has to say or that ad being pushy. Now, to explain how this works or why this works, you have to look at two different types of marketing. You've got brand marketing and direct response marketing. And to explain what each of those do, we're going to take that same kind of comedy show example and have a little thought experiment. So let's say that your objective is to increase sales and you've got a team of 10 people. You want to increase sales for your comedy club in Times Square. You can pick one of two strategies. The first strategy is that you can get t-shirts with your comedy club's name, maybe some messaging showing that it's a funny show, and then get your 10 minions to walk around Times Square. Option number two, get your 10 minions to approach as many people as possible, tell them about the comedy show, and move on if they're not interested. But if they show just a little bit of interest, then you know that they are going to be receptive to kind of aggressive sales tactics. So these are actually the extreme versions of two types of marketing: brand marketing and direct response marketing. So the first option, t-shirt walking around Times Square, that is brand marketing. That focuses on building a long-term relationship with potential customers. So you try to get people to remain loyal to your brand, increase awareness and trust. And basically, brand marketing is a type of marketing to get people to love you. The other option is called direct response marketing. And this type of marketing has a sole focus of getting potential customers to take some sort of action. So in this case, it's buying a comedy show ticket. So in this case, you're not trying to get people to love you, you're trying to get people to pay you. You can employ both of them, but you can't really employ both of these things to the maximum degree. It's kind of one or the other. Why is that the case? There's a little bit of a tension between the two of them. So let's take another example. Let's say you have a sort of gimmick where your company gives a free lunch, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. That's like kind of a saying. But let's say that you want to entice people to claim this offer of a free lunch. If you go the brand route, so the extreme route in this continuum, you'd say we're the only company that offers free lunch to everyone because we care about strangers. If you go the extreme on the other end, you'd say something like this. And this probably looks familiar, right? Like you've probably seen spammy ads that look like this or spammy sites. Click here, then fill out a free form. It takes less than 30 seconds. The reason that you can't be on both ends is because getting somebody to take an action requires you to be a little bit pushy. And so if you are a little bit pushy, you do take away from the brand side of things, which offers value without anything in return. So you can be in different parts of this continuum. So a good example here is Webflow. They're like right in the middle with this ad. So this ad, shows that Webflow is more of a straight road than a spider web. Try Webflow, learn more. This is often called branded responsive. It's like straight in the middle. On the right, you have an ad for something called Sprayable, which I have no clue what this is. I think it's a liver. But this ad is highly effective for them. And this is somewhere right over here, if not like to the extreme on the right. This spray makes sleep as easy as pushing a button. It's safe on your liver. So you've got those two sort of extreme ends of the continuum. And you got to pick the optimal place. Like, what is the optimal place to be on? There's actually no right answer for this. It depends on what you're marketing, and it depends on your company. But we're going to go back to this example of Times Square. So for them, the optimal point is closer to the direct response side. Why is that the case? Well, they're advertising in a tourist zone, so the pool of people there is constantly refreshing. Because that's the case, you can piss people off like at a maximum once. They're probably not going to be in Times Square tomorrow, and they're probably not going to remember that you pissed them off. On the flip side, if you were to focus on brand marketing, it'd still be unlikely to go to your comedy show twice, right? At max, they might go once, but building more loyalty to that comedy show is not something that would help more. So because this is the case, it makes more sense to prioritize being aggressive with sales and revenue over getting brand affinity and getting people to love you. Let's take another example. So let's, instead of thinking about New York and Times Square, let's think about a small town and a coffee shop. If you were to try to employ the same sort of tactics, what would the response be? You'd probably get the middle finger, to be honest. Actually, you'd probably get that also for the example in Times Square. But in this case, the audience is not constantly changing. And so people would remember that you're the asshole who tried to get them to buy coffee, and they would stick around. So you'd probably burn out all of your goodwill. Any questions so far, by the way? Look at chat. Allison, let me know if there are any questions in chat, because I think I lost the screen. Okay, cool. All right. So there is an appropriate time to use brand marketing versus direct response. There are appropriate situations, rather. And this table helps you out when it comes to analyzing when you should use which. So you should use direct response if the thing that you're selling is like pretty cheap. It doesn't take a lot of consideration to buy. And the reason is because people will buy it spontaneously if it's pretty cheap. On the other hand, if it's expensive, they probably need to trust your brand and your company a little bit. So you want to err on the side of brand. So selling like a $20 spray is very different than selling like a $2,000, let's say, event ticket. For the latter, you need that person to really trust the event, the speakers, and they likely will not purchase the first time they click on an ad. You'll probably need to hit them with multiple ads. You probably want to use direct response if you're only expecting one purchase. So think of the comedy club. On the other hand, if you want to get a customer to buy many times in their lifetime, you probably want to focus on brand. So McDonald's will focus on brand because they care about the customer lifetime value. The industry is also important. Take the gym industry, for example. People are pretty used to gym salespeople being really aggressive. And so it's not really a turnoff, or it's not a big of as much of a turnoff as it should be, because it's sort of the general norm. You know that if you sign up for a gym, you're going to get somebody who's like going to be kind of pushy with getting you to buy. But that would be different if you were trying to, let's say, find a doctor, right? If you're trying to find a general practitioner, somebody that you should trust, that would not be okay if they were very pushy about that. The use case for people purchasing is also important. So if people want to solve a specific pain point, so let's say pain, for example, let's say you sell some sort of supplement that helps with pain, people are much more willing to react to direct response. Whereas if somebody wants to buy your product as an expression, so any sort of apparel, then you're going to want to err on the brand side. In terms of consequences, like if your product fails, and if your product fails and there are no consequences, then you want to go on the direct response side. Whereas if there are consequences if your product fails, you probably want to go on the brand side of things. And lastly, and these two kind of go together, the older, less tech savvy audience will be more receptive to, in general, will be more receptive to ugly ads. The younger audience who are early tech adopters are going to want to see some level of trust and authority before purchasing a product. So it also comes down to demographic. That being said, context means a lot as well. So if the ad that somebody sees is again relevant, even if they're young and tech savvy, they're still going to respond favorably if that ad is super relevant to them. So this is what we talked about is brand marketing and direct response marketing in general. The internet really changed the game when it comes to which tactic is optimal for you. And it changed the game because, well, let's use an example. Let's say you want to run ads to get donations to a luxury cat shelter. I use this example a lot because I like it. And you want people to donate, right? Think of a Venn diagram where you've got all these different buckets. So you got people who like cats. And then within that segment, you've got people who really like cats. Then you've got people who donate to charity. Then you have people who are okay with being solicited for money. So they're more receptive to direct response ads. All of these other spaces here are various levels of pissed off. So they probably would not be super receptive to an ad for donations for a luxury cat shelter. But here, in this sweet spot of all these intersections, you're going to find people who are okay with ads and will likely donate money. The reason that the internet, especially social media platforms, change the game is because they are able to identify that exact sweet spot. And so everyone who is served that ad is going to be relevant, and the ad is going to be contextually appropriate for that person. In theory, all social media platforms should be able to do this. Any social media platform that contains what's known as a pixel or does any sort of API conversion matching should be able to do this, but only Meta does it really, really well. So Facebook and Instagram in particular are really good at this. You're able to run campaigns and optimize for a purchase event. When you do that, what you're telling the platform, let's say in this case, Facebook, what you're telling Facebook is find all the people who are likely to purchase this product. So in this case, find all the people who are likely to purchase or likely to donate money to a cat shelter. And then the magical thing that it does is it learns from previous events. So when somebody clicks on your ad and makes a purchase, Facebook finds other people who are similar to that person who clicked and purchased. So you've got Bob over here, purchases an item. that goes to Big Brother over here on Facebook. They take all of their data on its 1.5 billion monthly active users, finds the similar audience, and then that goes into this feedback loop where it's easier to find purchasers because you have more data. Similarly, on the search side of things, search is always sort of relevant and contextual. And the reason is that by definition, if you're searching for something, you're interested in that specific thing. So if you are interested in weight loss products and you search weight loss, or you search something around weight loss, you'll get ads that go to pages like this. And the reason that they go to these like super ugly pages that actually make a ton of money is because people who click on those ads are okay with very, very spammy looking pages because they're relevant to that person who searched for weight loss. All right, so takeaways from this. I think this lecture is pretty quick, but takeaways. It's really important to figure out where your business lies on the direct response versus brand spectrum. That table that I showed will help. Again, if you're like looking for lifetime value off of a user, probably want to err towards brand. If you're looking for just their initial purchase, you want to err towards direct response. But that being said, if you're running paid media ads on Facebook and Instagram, you can err towards direct response. And what I mean is, it's okay if your creatives look a little more amateur. They'll actually likely perform better, and you won't get that brand hit that you'll typically get if an audience is not relevant or contextual. Conversely, don't spend too much time creating videos and images because they might not end up working. I've seen companies like literally blow 50K in something that would be really, really good as a commercial, but on Facebook, that ad totally tanked. And what worked better was a really blurry amateur image, which is a good lesson. But yeah, they literally blew 50K on a commercial, which was really funny, actually. Not the situation, but the commercial was really funny. Yeah, you never know what is going to be optimal, so it's a really good idea to test. Any questions? We are super early. I think this is the shortest one we've done so far, but we'll make this deck available. Any questions? Cool. I hope everyone has a good rest of the weekend, and yeah, I highly recommend you join our Slack channel if you have any questions. I will directly answer them myself, no matter how granular about growth they might be.